As he ambled past the gardener, a profound jolt of recognition surged through the millionaire, rendering him momentarily immobile. His eyes were fixated on the pendant hanging from the gardener's neck, a strikingly evocative piece that seemed to resonate with a deep and unsettling familiarity. It was the same pendant his son had worn, a cherished token before he mysteriously disappeared into the void of uncertainty many years ago. The sight of it stirred a whirlwind of emotions within him: hope, dread, and an aching sorrow that seemed to pierce his very soul. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell to avoid missing any videos. Daniel, a young man of remarkable resilience and unwavering dedication, had lived his life overshadowed by the enigmatic specter of his unknown origins. His formative years were spent within the cold, unyielding walls of an orphanage, a place that shaped him with its harsh realities and gave him nothing but the pendant he clung to as a symbol of his past. When he finally emerged from the orphanage at the age of 18, he did so with a heart full of unspoken dreams and a single clue to his origins: the moon-shaped pendant that hung around his neck. With a fierce determination to forge his destiny, Daniel ventured into the world, armed with little more than this precious heirloom and an unwavering belief in the promise of a brighter future. His journey was fraught with challenges and heartache, each step a testament to his enduring spirit and relentless quest for purpose. Through a series of trials and tribulations, Daniel eventually secured a position as a gardener at the illustrious estate of Roberto Gonzalez, a figure of immense wealth and respect within the community. On his inaugural day at the mansion, Daniel was overwhelmed by a maelstrom of emotions, nervousness intermingled with a thrilling sense of anticipation. The grandiose garden of the estate, with its meticulously curated flora and expansive grounds, stretched out before him like a vast, uncharted canvas. Every leaf rustling in the breeze, every blossom unfurling in the sunlight, seemed to whisper tales of new beginnings and latent possibilities. For Daniel, this new chapter was not just a job but a crucial step toward unraveling the mysteries of his past, a chance to discover his place in the world and perhaps, just perhaps, uncover the tea. Upon his arrival at the grand estate, Daniel was met by Manuel Lopez, the mansion's steward, whose stern and imposing demeanor immediately set a tense tone. Manuel's sharp eyes, brimming with skepticism, scrutinized Daniel with an unsettling intensity. "I trust you understand the gravity of your responsibilities," Manuel said, his voice dripping with an icy reserve. "The gardens here are not merely for show, they demand unwavering dedication and an uncompromising pursuit of perfection." Undeterred by the steward's chilly reception, Daniel nodded with a steely resolve, his heart steeled against the challenge that lay ahead. With a quiet determination, he set to work, his gaze sweeping over the vibrant array of flowers and meticulously maintained shrubs that comprised the estate's lush gardens. The sheer beauty of the greenery was not lost on him, and he felt a deep sense of reverence as he tended to each plant with care. Day after day, Daniel poured his soul into the garden, his commitment evident in every precise cut and careful watering. Despite his diligent efforts, he found himself constantly under the microscope of Manuel's relentless scrutiny. No matter how carefully Daniel pruned or how attentively he watered the flowers, Manuel always seemed to find fault, his criticisms a persistent echo of dissatisfaction. Yet, through it all, Daniel maintained a calm and unwavering focus, his resolve to excel and prove his worth never faltering. One crisp morning, as Daniel labored over a rose bed, he noticed a sleek, opulent car gliding up the driveway to the mansion. It was Roberto Gonzalez, returning from one of his frequent and elusive business trips. This was the first time Daniel had the opportunity to observe the master of the estate up close. Roberto was a man of commanding presence, his stature exuding authority, yet his eyes held a gentleness that seemed to pierce through to one's innermost being. Daniel continued with his tasks, his attention absorbed by the meticulous care of the rose bed, unaware of Roberto's keen observation from afar. His purpose remained singular and clear: to perform his duties with the utmost excellence and perhaps, in time, unravel more about the shadows of his past. His work in the garden was not merely a job, it was a journey of personal growth and a silent quest for answers, driven by the hope that one day, the pendant around his neck might lead him to the truth he so desperately sought. Working at Roberto Gonzalez's mansion transcended the bounds of a mere job. It represented a pivotal chance to begin unraveling the enigma of his origins. As the day drew to a close, Daniel felt a profound sense of exhaustion mingled with satisfaction, a reflection of the tangible progress he had made in tending to the garden. The process of storing his tools was a moment of quiet contemplation, during which he pondered the significance of this new chapter in his life. This role at the mansion wasn't just about cultivating flora, it symbolized a fresh start, a unique opportunity to forge a future while quietly seeking the truth about his past. With this renewed sense of purpose, Daniel left for home, his spirit buoyed by hope and an unwavering resolve to continue his diligent efforts. Little did he know that the seemingly trivial encounter with Roberto and the pendant he wore were about to intertwine his fate with profound and unexpected consequences. As days turned into weeks, Daniel adapted to the rhythm of his new role, establishing a routine as a gardener at the mansion. Yet, his daily work was far from smooth, primarily due to the relentless scrutiny and disdain of Manuel Lopez, the mansion's imposing and authoritarian steward. From the outset, Manuel's treatment of Daniel was marked by condescension and frequent criticism, aimed more at belittling than instructing. "This work is subpar, Daniel. These shrubs look dreadful," Manuel would declare with an air of superiority, his words sharp and unyielding, devoid of any constructive feedback. Despite Manuel's harsh demeanor, Daniel maintained his composure, choosing to channel his focus into his tasks rather than allowing himself to be disheartened. He held steadfast to the belief that his dedication and the quality of his work would eventually earn him the respect he sought. However, as time passed, the tension between them continued to escalate, the atmosphere charged with an unspoken conflict. One fateful afternoon, the region was struck by a violent storm, unleashing torrents of rain and ferocious winds that battered the mansion's gardens. The once pristine landscape was left in disarray, with debris strewn across the grounds. Undeterred by the chaotic weather, Daniel embraced the challenge with an unwavering resolve. Driven by a sense of duty and a deep connection to his work, he plunged into the storm, tirelessly working to mitigate the damage and restore order to the garden. His determination was a testament to his commitment, reflecting not only his dedication to his role, but also his enduring hope to find his place in the world amidst the swirling turmoil of his life. From one of the mansion's grand windows, Manuel Lopez, ever the vigilant steward, observed the storm's impact on the garden with an unrelenting gaze. Seizing the opportunity to assert his authority, he emerged into the tempest, shielded by a large umbrella. His presence was marked by an air of self-righteousness as he descended into the garden, where he began to vocally berate Daniel in front of the other employees. The rain pelted down relentlessly, but Manuel's harsh reprimands cut through the noise with a biting clarity. "You're failing miserably," Daniel Manuel's voice roared over the storm's fury. "You can't even maintain the garden's order amid a storm. This level of incompetence is unacceptable." His words dripped with disdain as he continued, "You should understand that the gardens of Roberto Gonzalez's mansion are held to the highest standards of perfection, regardless of circumstances." The other staff members, drenched and struggling against the storm's wrath, paused their efforts to witness the uncomfortable confrontation. Daniel, drenched and visibly weary, stood amidst the chaos, his face a mixture of exhaustion and defiance. He attempted to defend his efforts, his voice strained yet resolute. "I'm doing my utmost, Mr. Lopez. The storm came without warning, but I am working tirelessly to restore order." Despite Daniel's earnest attempt to explain the situation, Manuel was unmoved, his criticisms unrelenting as he scrutinized every minor imperfection in Daniel's work. Just as Manuel's tirade reached its peak, a sudden, authoritative voice cut through the commotion. Roberto Gonzalez, having returned unexpectedly from his business trip, emerged from his car and was drawn to the scene by the clamor in the garden. His commanding presence quickly halted Manuel's barrage. "Manuel, what on earth is happening here?" Roberto's voice was firm and commanding, an unmistakable interruption to Manuel's relentless censure. His piercing gaze sought answers amidst the storm's chaos, his arrival a stark contrast to the earlier confrontation and hinting at a shift in the dynamics of the situation. Manuel's surprise was evident as he fumbled to justify his actions. "Mr. Gonzalez," he began, attempting to defend his position, "I'm merely ensuring that the garden remains in pristine condition. However, this gardener is failing to meet the necessary standards." His voice, though defensive, lacked conviction. Roberto's gaze then shifted to Daniel, who was visibly struggling yet diligently performing his tasks amidst the torrential downpour. The sight of Daniel's earnest efforts in the face of such adversity struck a chord with Roberto. Turning back to Manuel, Roberto's expression hardened with clear disapproval. "Manuel, I will not condone this kind of treatment. Each person here is working tirelessly, especially under these challenging conditions. Daniel is performing admirably and does not deserve to be subjected to such harsh criticism." The other employees, soaked to the bone and weary from their efforts, stood in silent awe of Roberto's decisive stance. Manuel, now clearly discomforted and chastened by the unexpected turn of events, muttered a feeble excuse before retreating from the garden with a noticeable lack of grace. Relief washed over Daniel as he looked toward Roberto, his heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Your support means a great deal to me," Daniel said, his voice filled with sincere appreciation. Roberto offered a reassuring smile, placing a comforting hand on Daniel's shoulder. "Keep up the excellent work, Daniel. We're all navigating through pressure and difficulties, but we must maintain mutual respect and support for one another." From that pivotal moment forward, Daniel was imbued with a renewed sense of motivation and determination. He understood that challenges, particularly from Manuel, were likely to persist, but Roberto's unwavering support fortified his resolve. With this newfound encouragement, Daniel committed himself to his work with an even greater sense of purpose, driven not only by the desire to prove his worth, but also by the hope of uncovering the truths about his past. The confidence and respect he had earned from Roberto became a beacon, guiding him through the trials ahead and inspiring him to strive for excellence in every aspect of his work. After Roberto's decisive intervention, the atmosphere at the mansion gradually returned to a more stable and serene state. Daniel resumed his gardening duties with a palpable sense of renewed motivation and appreciation, buoyed by the unexpected support he had received from Roberto. The once tumultuous scene had left a lasting mark on Roberto, a lingering sense of familiarity that gnawed at his thoughts. As the days passed, Roberto could not shake the feeling that the moon-shaped pendant worn by Daniel was significant in some way. The image of the pendant, glinting in the sunlight, seemed to echo a memory from his past, stirring emotions that he had not felt in years. He found himself preoccupied with the idea that there might be more to this pendant than mere coincidence. The following morning, amidst the crisp air and the scent of fresh blooms, Daniel was absorbed in the meticulous task of pruning the rose bushes. His movements were methodical and careful, each snip of the shears executed with precision. Roberto observed him from a distance, noting the dedication and care with which Daniel attended to the garden. It was in this moment of contemplation that Roberto decided it was time to address the lingering questions that had been troubling him. "Daniel, could we have a moment to talk?" Roberto's voice, though gentle, carried an undercurrent of earnest curiosity. Daniel paused, his hands stilling as he wiped them on his pants, and turned to face Roberto with a mixture of curiosity and attentiveness. "Certainly, Mr. Gonzalez. What can I assist you with?" Roberto's gaze was drawn once more to the moon-shaped pendant hanging from Daniel's neck. It was an exquisite piece, its intricate design catching the light in a way that made it appear almost otherworldly. "That pendant you're wearing, it's unique and captivating. I was wondering if you could share with me where it came from." Daniel looked down at the pendant, his brow furrowing slightly as he processed the question. "I've had this pendant for as long as I can remember, sir. The caretakers at the orphanage where I grew up told me they found me with it when I was a child, left alone in a park. They said it was the only thing I had with me when they found me, unfortunately. I never learned its origins or any details about it." As Daniel recounted his story, Roberto felt a rush of emotions surging within him. The pendant seemed to resonate with a deeper significance, touching on memories and sentiments that he had long since buried. Roberto's mind raced as he sifted through fragments of recollections that seemed to align with the pendant's design, stirring up a sense of nostalgia and intrigue. He was struck by the profound connection he felt to the pendant, a sensation that went beyond mere recognition. It was as though the pendant was a tangible link to a chapter of his past that he had yet to fully explore. Roberto's heart pounded with the realization that this pendant could be the key to unlocking a forgotten narrative, intertwining his history with Daniel's in a way that was both unexpected and deeply personal. The more Roberto reflected on Daniel's story, the more he was drawn into a web of memories that seemed to weave together past and present. He realized that this pendant was not just a piece of jewelry, it was a symbol of something much greater, a connection to a shared past that had remained hidden for years. Roberto's resolve to understand the pendant's significance grew stronger, fueled by the desire to uncover the truth and explore the enigmatic ties that bound their histories. As the conversation drew to a close, Roberto offered Daniel a reassuring smile, his mind still reeling with the implications of what he had learned. "Thank you for sharing that with me, Daniel. It seems there's much more to this pendant than meets the eye. I appreciate your openness, and I'll do what I can to help uncover its story." Daniel, feeling a renewed sense of hope and curiosity, nodded gratefully. "Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. I appreciate your interest and willingness to help." With that, Roberto left the garden, his thoughts consumed by the mystery of the pendant and the newfound connection to his past. As he walked away, he felt a sense of anticipation and excitement, knowing that this discovery could lead to revelations that would change both his life and Daniel's in ways they had yet to imagine. "You mentioned that you were found in a park." Roberto's voice wavered slightly as he tried to maintain a composed demeanor. His eyes were fixed on Daniel, searching for any sign of recognition. "Yes," Daniel responded, his expression earnest. "The caretakers discovered me there, completely alone, with no clues about my family or my origins. This pendant was the only thing I had with me." Roberto fell into a contemplative silence, the weight of Daniel's words settling heavily on his shoulders. His mind raced back to a heart-wrenching chapter of his own life, a time when he had experienced the devastating loss of his son. The moon-shaped pendant, a cherished gift he had given to his boy, was now a symbol of a past that had been painfully severed. Trying to mask the surge of emotion that threatened to overwhelm him, Roberto cleared his throat and addressed Daniel with a calm, yet resolute tone. "Daniel, there is something profoundly significant about that pendant that I need to investigate further. May I have a closer look?" Daniel, sensing the gravity in Roberto's request, carefully removed the pendant from around his neck and handed it to Roberto. As Roberto held the pendant in his hands, he could feel a rush of emotions cascading over him. The pendant's intricate design and the subtle weight of its metal seemed to resonate deeply, stirring up a maelstrom of memories and feelings that he had long thought buried. Roberto scrutinized the pendant with a mix of reverence and urgency, every detail seeming to beckon him toward an urgent revelation. He knew that understanding the pendant's true significance could be the key to unlocking the mysteries of both his past and Daniel's present. Daniel, Roberto said, his voice steady but imbued with an underlying intensity, as he returned the pendant to its rightful owner. "I need you to be patient with me. There are important details that I must verify, and I assure you that I will find the answers as swiftly as possible." Daniel, still grappling with the unfolding situation, nodded in agreement. Though he didn't fully grasp the scope of what was transpiring, he felt an undercurrent of anticipation and trust in Roberto's words. The promise of forthcoming revelations filled him with a cautious optimism. With a heavy heart but unwavering resolve, Roberto turned and walked away from the garden. His thoughts were consumed by the enormity of the task ahead. He was driven by a determination to uncover the truth, regardless of how complex or painful the journey might prove to be. The path to unraveling the mystery of Daniel's origins and its connection to his past was just beginning, and Roberto was resolute in his quest to find answers and bring clarity to the shadowy threads that bound their fates together. Roberto retreated to his private office in the mansion, his mind a tempest of turmoil following the startling revelations about the pendant. He sank into the comfort of his leather chair, yet the familiar embrace did little to soothe the turmoil churning within him. With a deep, shuddering breath, he closed his eyes and let the floodgates of memory burst open, allowing the past to surge forth with harrowing clarity. The vivid memories of a sunlit afternoon from many years ago came rushing back, their intensity as piercing as if they had occurred just yesterday. Roberto recalled the day with painful precision. He had been driving home with his young son, Daniel, who was barely 3 years old at the time. The day had been spent joyfully at the park, and as they drove home, Daniel sat in the back seat, his cherubic face alight with innocent joy. In his tiny hands, he clutched the moon-shaped pendant, a gift from Roberto, a token of their unbreakable bond. The pendant had been more than just jewelry. It was a symbol of their shared love, a promise of an eternal connection between father and son. Roberto's heart ached at thought of that cherished token, now worn by another young man. As they cruised down the tranquil streets, a sudden and profound sense of danger gripped Roberto's heart. His instincts screamed a warning just moments before 3 hooded figures emerged from the shadows, their menacing presence blocking the road ahead. The scene unfolded with terrifying speed. The hoodlums surrounded Roberto's car, brandishing weapons with ruthless intent. The atmosphere was thick with menace, and Roberto's pulse raced with fear. Desperation took hold of him as he tried to remain composed for Daniel's sake. "Please, take whatever you want," he pleaded, his voice quivering with dread. "Just leave my son alone." But the robbers were merciless. They yanked Roberto from the vehicle with brutal force, their fists and feet raining down upon him with unrestrained violence. The agony was excruciating, a haze of pain and terror enveloping him as the world around him spun into darkness. In his final moments of consciousness, Roberto heard the engine of his car roar to life, a sound that marked the theft of his most precious treasure, his son. When Roberto finally regained awareness, he found himself in a sterile hospital room, disoriented and battered, his body covered in bruises and his mind in a fog of confusion. The chilling reality of his situation struck him with brutal force. Daniel had been abducted, and the criminals had vanished without leaving a trace. The police had launched an exhaustive search operation, scouring every lead with relentless determination, but their efforts proved fruitless. The case grew cold, leaving Roberto to grapple with the agonizing void left by his son's disappearance. The weight of his loss was a heavy, unshakable burden. Roberto's life spiraled into chaos as he struggled to cope with the unbearable pain of losing Daniel and the unrelenting anguish of never knowing what had become of him. The trauma of that day had etched itself deeply into his soul, a permanent scar that haunted him in moments of solitude. The pendant, now in the possession of another young man named Daniel, had resurfaced, stirring the echoes of a past he could never fully escape. As Roberto revisited those agonizing moments from his past, a revelation struck him with the force of a tidal wave. The pendant around Daniel's neck was unmistakably the one he had gifted his son many years ago. A torrent of emotions surged through Roberto, a potent blend of hope and dread, as he grappled with the possibility that this pendant might be the vital link to his lost child. Driven by an unyielding resolve to unearth the truth, Roberto felt an urgent need to act swiftly. His mind raced with the necessity to reconnect with old allies and law enforcement officials who had once been entangled in the search. With a renewed sense of purpose, Roberto enlisted the help of a seasoned private investigator who had delved into the original case. This rekindled flame of hope propelled him to scour through dusty files and chase fresh leads. Roberto's strategy also included a more direct approach to Daniel, subtly engaging with him to discern if he was indeed his vanished son. Oblivious to the seismic shift awaiting him, Daniel carried on with his gardening, blissfully unaware of the impending upheaval. Days slipped by as the investigation bore fruit. Roberto unearthed new information, affirming that the pendant was intrinsically tied to his missing son's case. The private investigator's diligent efforts revealed that Daniel had been taken in by an orphanage after being discovered near the park where the abduction had unfolded. Piece by piece, the puzzle began to assemble, each discovery fortifying Roberto's hope and deepening his emotional investment in the quest for truth. Determined to leave no stone unturned, Roberto reached out to former acquaintances, hoping their memories might yield new insights. He contacted old friends and law enforcement officials who had been involved in the case years ago, seeking any forgotten details that could now be crucial. The conversations were emotionally charged, filled with sorrow and regret as they revisited the traumatic events. Meanwhile, Roberto's nights were restless, his mind racing with the possibilities and the fear of what he might discover. He pored over every detail, examining every lead with meticulous care. Each new piece of information was a step closer to the truth, and yet the fear of a false hope lingered, threatening to overwhelm him. But Roberto's love for his son was a powerful force, driving him forward despite the emotional turmoil. As he delved deeper, Roberto learned more about Daniel's life. He discovered that Daniel had grown up in various foster homes, each one leaving its mark on him. The hardships and resilience Daniel had faced only made Roberto more determined to find the truth. The more he learned, the more convinced he became that Daniel was his son. In a moment of profound realization, Roberto decided to confront Daniel directly. He needed to hear the truth from him, to see if there was a spark of recognition. The encounter was filled with emotion, both men feeling the weight of the moment. Daniel, still unaware of the full significance of the pendant, listened intently as Roberto shared his story, his voice trembling with emotion. Tears welled up in Roberto's eyes as he recounted the day his son was taken, the years of searching, and the heartache that had consumed him. Daniel was moved by the story, feeling a connection he couldn't quite explain. The pendant, once just a piece of jewelry, now felt like a heavy weight around his neck, laden with history and meaning. As the days turned into weeks, the investigation reached its climax. The private investigator's final report was a revelation, confirming that Daniel had indeed been found near the park where the abduction occurred. The pieces of the puzzle fit together seamlessly, each one validating Roberto's hopes and fears. In the end, Roberto's relentless pursuit of the truth brought him closer to his son than he had ever dared to hope. The pendant, a symbol of his love and loss, had led him back to Daniel. The journey had been long and fraught with emotion, but it was a testament to the enduring power of a father's love. Roberto's hope had been rewarded. His fears were finally laid to rest. The bond between father and son, once shattered, was now being painstakingly rebuilt, one piece at a time. Eventually, Roberto sat down with Daniel to explain everything he had discovered. Daniel. Roberto began, his voice trembling with emotion. I have something very important to tell you. The pendant you wear is very special to me. It belonged to my son, who was taken from me many years ago. I believe you might be my son. Daniel listened in shock, his heart pounding as Roberto recounted the harrowing events of the past. The truth was overwhelming, a flood of emotions threatening to drown him as he struggled to process the reality of the situation. Yet, as Roberto continued to share his story, Daniel began to feel a deep, inexplicable connection to a past he had always longed to understand. The revelation was both a blessing and a burden, as they both realized there were still many unanswered questions and that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. But the possibility of reuniting a family that had been torn apart for so long ignited a spark of hope within them both. The thought of mending the wounds of the past and rebuilding their bond gave them the strength to face whatever lay ahead. Determined to uncover the full truth and heal from their shared pain, Roberto and Daniel decided to work together. They embarked on a journey of discovery and reconciliation, committed to embracing both their future and their past. The bond that had once been severed began to mend, piece by piece, as they navigated this emotional and transformative journey together. Their first step was a meeting with Mr. Ramirez, a retired policeman who had been involved in the original case. As Roberto waited in a local cafe, a mix of anxiety and hope churned within him. When Mr. Ramirez finally arrived, his presence brought a sense of gravity to the moment. Roberto wasted no time and went straight to the point. Mr. Ramirez, thank you for meeting with me. I need your help to find out what happened to my son, Roberto said, his voice steady but filled with urgency. Mr. Ramirez listened intently as Roberto recounted his recent discoveries and the incredible possibility that Daniel could be his long-lost son. The retired officer's eyes reflected a mixture of empathy and determination as he absorbed the story. I remember the case well, Mr. Ramirez said thoughtfully. It was one of those that stayed with me. If there's any chance we can find the truth, I'm here to help. With Mr. Ramirez's guidance, they began to delve deeper into the case files, re-examining evidence and looking for overlooked details. The process was painstaking, but each new piece of information brought them closer to understanding the full picture. Roberto and Daniel's bond grew stronger as they worked side by side, their shared mission drawing them closer together. As they pieced together the fragments of the past, they uncovered more about Daniel's life before he was taken to the orphanage. They found clues about the circumstances of his abduction and the people involved. The investigation led them to places and individuals who held critical pieces of the puzzle, slowly but surely revealing the truth. Through it all, Roberto and Daniel supported each other, their relationship evolving from one of tentative connection to deep familial love. They shared stories, laughed, and cried together, building a new foundation based on trust and understanding. The journey was not easy, but it was profoundly healing, allowing them both to confront their pain and embrace the hope of a brighter future. In the end, their perseverance paid off. The final piece of evidence confirmed beyond doubt that Daniel was indeed Roberto's son. The revelation brought a flood of emotions, relief, joy, and a deep sense of fulfillment. The long search was over, and the family that had been torn apart by tragedy was finally reunited. Roberto and Daniel stood together, looking toward the future with renewed hope and strength. The road ahead would still have its challenges, but they knew they could face anything as long as they had each other. The bond between father and son, once severed by time and circumstance, had been restored, and their journey of healing and love had only just begun. Mr. Ramirez, thank you for meeting with me. I need to know more about the boy found in the park years ago. I believe he might be my son, Roberto said, trying to contain his anxiety. Mr. Ramirez, an elderly man with sharp eyes, looked at Roberto with curiosity. I remember that case well. It was one of the saddest I have seen. The boy was alone, scared, and there was no clue about his identity except for a moon-shaped pendant. Roberto felt a shiver upon hearing the description. That pendant. The boy still has it. He is now a young man who works for me. I need to know if he is my son. Mr. Ramirez nodded, understanding the urgency in Roberto's voice. I remember we did everything possible to find that boy's parents. Unfortunately, we were never successful. But now that you mention it, your name was in the records as the owner of the car abandoned near the park. I always thought there was a connection. The pieces of the puzzle began to fit together. Roberto felt a wave of renewed hope but knew he needed concrete proof. Mr. Ramirez, this is crucial for me and my wife. We need a definitive confirmation. I am planning to do a DNA test. Do you think that could finally give us the answers? Mr. Ramirez leaned back, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. A DNA test would indeed provide the definitive proof you need. It's the most reliable way to confirm your suspicions. If the young man is willing to cooperate, this could be the breakthrough you've been waiting for. Encouraged by Mr. Ramirez's words, Roberto felt a surge of determination. Thank you, Mr. Ramirez. Your help means everything to me. I will speak to Daniel and explain the situation. I hope he understands and agrees to the test. The conversation with Mr. Ramirez filled Roberto with a newfound sense of purpose. He knew that the path ahead would be challenging, but the possibility of reuniting with his son after all these years fueled his resolve. Roberto left the cafe, his mind racing with thoughts of how to approach Daniel. Later that evening, Roberto found Daniel working in the garden, the moon-shaped pendant glinting in the fading light. Taking a deep breath, he approached the young man. Daniel, there's something very important I need to talk to you about, Roberto began, his voice filled with emotion. Daniel looked up, sensing the gravity of the moment. What is it, Roberto? Roberto took a deep breath. I recently discovered some information that suggests you might be my son. The pendant you wear matches the one my son had when he was taken from us. I've spoken to a retired policeman who remembers the case. And we believe the best way to confirm this is through a DNA test. I know this is a lot to take in, but I hope you understand how important this is to me and my family. Daniel's eyes widened in shock. Your son? I don't know what to say. I never knew my parents, and I've always wondered about my past. If a DNA test can give us the answers, then I'm willing to do it. Relief washed over Roberto. Thank you, Daniel. This means more to me than you can imagine. We'll arrange the test as soon as possible. The following days were filled with anticipation and anxiety as they awaited the results. Roberto and Daniel spent time together, sharing stories and learning more about each other. The bond between them grew stronger with each passing day, deepening their connection. When the day of the test results arrived, Roberto's heart pounded with a mix of fear and hope. As they opened the envelope together, the words confirmed what Roberto had longed to hear. Daniel was indeed his son. Tears of joy streamed down Roberto's face as he embraced Daniel. Welcome home, my son, he whispered, his voice choked with emotion. The years of pain and separation melted away in that moment, replaced by the promise of a new beginning. For Daniel, the revelation brought a sense of belonging he had always yearned for. He finally knew who he was and where he came from. The journey to uncover the truth had been long and arduous, but it had ultimately led to the most profound discovery of all the unbreakable bond between a father and his son. Together, Roberto and Daniel faced the future with renewed hope and strength. They knew the road ahead would still have its challenges, but they were ready to face them together. The family that had been torn apart by tragedy was finally reunited, and their journey of healing and love had only just begun. The retired policeman agreed. Yes, a DNA test would be the irrefutable proof. If you need more information, I am here to help in any way I can. With that, Roberto deeply thanked Mr. Ramirez and returned to the mansion with a sense of urgency. He knew the only way to confirm his suspicions was through the DNA test. Upon arriving at the mansion, he found Gina waiting anxiously. "Roberto, what did you find out?" Gina asked with evident concern in her voice. Roberto took his wife's hand and explained everything about the meeting with Mr. Ramirez. "Gina, everything points to the fact that Daniel is our son, but we need definitive proof. I will do a DNA test to confirm it." Gina nodded, excitement shining in her eyes. "Let's do it, Roberto. We need to know the truth." Roberto then went to meet Daniel, who was in the garden as usual. He knew he had to approach the young man carefully. "Can I talk to you for a moment?" Roberto asked, trying to hide the emotion in his voice. Daniel left what he was doing and approached. "Sure, Mr. Gonzalez, what's going on?" Roberto took a deep breath before speaking. "Daniel, there's something very important that I need to tell you. Since I saw your pendant, I felt there might be a connection between us. I talked to some people and gathered information that indicates you might be my missing son. I want to do a DNA test to be sure." Daniel stared at Roberto, stunned by the revelation. He looked down at the pendant around his neck, his mind racing with a mix of emotions. "Your son? I don't know what to say," he stammered, struggling to process the information. Roberto placed a reassuring hand on Daniel's shoulder. "I understand this is a lot to take in, but this is something we need to do, for both our sakes. If you agree, we can do the test and find out for sure." After a moment of contemplation, Daniel nodded slowly. "Okay, Mr. Gonzalez. If this can give us answers, I'm willing to do it." Relief washed over Roberto as he hugged Daniel tightly. "Thank you, Daniel. This means everything to us." The following day, they arranged for the DNA test. The wait for the results was filled with tension and anticipation. Roberto and Gina spent sleepless nights, their minds filled with hopes and fears. They often found themselves reminiscing about their lost son, imagining what he might have been through all these years. Finally, the day of the results arrived. Roberto, Gina, and Daniel gathered in the living room, the air thick with anticipation. Roberto held the envelope in his trembling hands, his heart pounding in his chest. With a deep breath, he opened it and read the results aloud. "The test confirms that Daniel is our son," Roberto said, his voice choked with emotion. Tears streamed down Gina's face as she embraced Daniel. "Welcome home, my son," she whispered, her voice filled with love and relief. Daniel, overwhelmed with emotion, hugged both Roberto and Gina tightly. "I always wondered about my past, and now I finally know where I belong." The days that followed were filled with joy and celebration. The family that had been torn apart by tragedy was finally reunited. Roberto, Gina, and Daniel spent hours talking, sharing stories, and catching up on lost time. The bond between them grew stronger with each passing day, their love and connection deepening as they healed from the wounds of the past. Roberto and Gina were overjoyed to have their son back, and they vowed to make up for the lost years. They supported Daniel in every way possible, helping him adjust to his new life and encouraging him to pursue his dreams. Together, they faced the future with renewed hope and strength, ready to overcome any obstacles that came their way. Their journey of discovery and reconciliation had been long and arduous, but it had ultimately led to the most profound and rewarding outcome. The love and determination that had driven Roberto and Gina to find their son had brought their family back together, stronger and more united than ever before. As they stood together, looking toward the future, they knew that the bond between them was unbreakable. The years of pain and separation had only made their reunion sweeter, and they were grateful for the chance to build a new life together. The journey of healing and love had just begun, and they were ready to embrace it with open hearts and unwavering faith. Daniel was stunned, not knowing what to say. "Mr. Gonzalez, this is a huge surprise. I always wanted to know about my past, but I never imagined something like this." Roberto placed a hand on Daniel's shoulder, offering a comforting smile. "I understand this is a lot to process, but we need to know the truth. Let's do this test and find out once and for all." Daniel agreed, still dazed by the revelation. In the days that followed, the DNA test was conducted, and the wait for the results seemed endless. Roberto, Gina, and Daniel lived on an emotional roller coaster, each dealing with their expectations and fears. Finally, the day of the results arrived. Roberto held the envelope in his hands, feeling the weight of the truth about to be revealed. He looked at Gina and Daniel, both equally anxious, and opened the envelope. The reading of the result confirmed what their hearts already knew: Daniel was indeed the lost son of Roberto and Gina. Emotion took over the room. Gina hugged Daniel, with tears of joy rolling down her face. Roberto felt a mix of relief and joy like never before. The truth was finally clear, and the family was reunited again. Daniel woke up the next morning feeling different. The revelation of his true identity still resonated in his mind, but he was determined to adapt to his new life as the son of Roberto and Gina Gonzalez. He knew it would be a transition full of challenges, but also of opportunities and personal growth. Roberto and Gina gave him all the necessary support and decided it was time for Daniel to join the family business, not just as a team member, but in a position of trust. Roberto saw in Daniel's untapped potential and was eager to show him the ins and outs of the business. "Daniel, we want you to be an integral part of our company," Roberto said, while having breakfast with Gina and Daniel. "There is much to learn, but I believe you have the capacity and intelligence to excel here." Daniel, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness, nodded. "Thank you for believing in me. I'm ready to learn and contribute." The next few weeks were transformative for Daniel. He was introduced to various aspects of the family business, from operations to management. Roberto mentored him closely, sharing his years of experience and wisdom. Daniel quickly absorbed the knowledge, his natural aptitude for business becoming evident. Gina, meanwhile, ensured Daniel felt at home. She included him in family traditions and shared stories about his childhood, helping him piece together the parts of his life that had been missing. The family spent evenings reminiscing and planning for the future, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. One evening, as they gathered in the living room, Roberto looked at Daniel with pride. "You've come a long way in such a short time, Daniel. Your dedication and hard work are truly commendable." Daniel smiled, feeling a deep sense of belonging. "I couldn't have done it without your guidance and support. I'm grateful for this second chance at life." Gina added, "We're all learning and growing together. The past may have been filled with heartache, but our future is bright and full of promise." As Daniel continued to excel in the family business, he also took time to reflect on his journey. He visited the places that had shaped his early years and reconnected with people who had been part of his life. These experiences grounded him, reinforcing his commitment to his new family and their shared future. The Gonzalez family faced challenges, as all families do, but they faced them together, united by love and determination. They celebrated their victories and supported each other through difficult times. Daniel's presence brought renewed energy to the business, and his fresh perspectives led to innovative ideas and growth. In time, Daniel became a trusted leader within the company, respected by colleagues and clients alike. He honored his parents' legacy while forging his path, always mindful of the journey that had brought him to this point. Roberto and Gina watched with pride as their son thrived, their hearts filled with gratitude for the miracle that had reunited them. They knew that no matter what the future held, their family was stronger and more resilient because of the love and courage that had guided them through their darkest days. As they looked forward to the years ahead, they embraced each day with hope and joy, knowing that their bond was unbreakable and their love enduring. The Gonzalez family had come full circle, their story a testament to the power of faith, perseverance, and the unyielding strength of family. Daniel nodded, feeling honored and a bit nervous. "Thank you, Dad. I will give my best. I am eager to learn and contribute." In the following weeks, Daniel was introduced to the corporate environment of the Gonzalez company. He went through various departments, learning about finance, operations, and marketing. Each department offered a new perspective and a new set of skills to acquire. Roberto was always by Daniel's side, guiding him with patience and enthusiasm. The company's employees, although initially surprised by Daniel's arrival, soon saw his dedication and eagerness to learn. However, not everyone was happy with the new situation. Manuel Lopez, the resentful butler of the mansion, watched with growing discontent. Manuel never got over the fact that Roberto defended Daniel in the garden. Now, seeing him elevated to a prestigious position in the company, his envy and rage increased. He began conspiring against Daniel, trying to undermine his credibility and create conflicts within the company. One day, while Daniel was reviewing important documents in the office, Manuel entered with an expression of false calm. "Daniel, you seem very busy," Manuel said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Do you need help? Maybe I can guide you on how things work around here." Daniel, not suspecting Manuel's intentions, accepted the offer. "Sure, Manuel. Any help is welcome. I am trying to understand these financial reports, but some points are still confusing to me." Taking advantage of the opportunity, Manuel began giving incorrect advice and trying to cause errors that could harm Daniel. However, Daniel, with his dedication and intelligence, managed to identify the inconsistencies and correct the errors before they caused any real damage. His natural aptitude for business, coupled with the guidance from Roberto, helped him navigate these challenges successfully. Manuel's attempts to sabotage Daniel continued, but each time, Daniel's keen eye and growing expertise allowed him to spot the discrepancies. He began to suspect that Manuel's intentions were not as pure as they seemed. Determined to uncover the truth, Daniel decided to keep a closer watch on Manuel's actions. Meanwhile, Roberto noticed the tension between Daniel and Manuel. He approached Daniel one evening in the study, concern etched on his face. "Daniel, I've observed some friction between you and Manuel. Is there something you want to talk about?" Daniel hesitated for a moment before responding. "Dad, I've noticed that Manuel's advice often leads to mistakes. I'm starting to think he might be doing it on purpose." Roberto's expression hardened. "If that's true, we need to address this immediately. Manuel has been with us for years, but I won't tolerate anyone undermining you." Together, they devised a plan to catch Manuel in the act. Over the next few days, Daniel carefully documented every instance of Manuel's misleading advice and the resulting issues. When they had enough evidence, Roberto called a meeting with Manuel. "Manuel," Roberto began, his tone firm, "we have reason to believe that you've been intentionally sabotaging Daniel's work. Do you have anything to say in your defense?" Manuel's face paled, but he tried to maintain his composure. "Mr. Gonzalez, I would never." Roberto cut him off. "We have evidence, Manuel. I trusted you, but your actions have shown that you don't deserve that trust." Realizing he had been caught, Manuel's demeanor changed. His voice dripping with bitterness, he said, "I never thought he deserved this position. He's just a newcomer, and you gave him everything." Roberto's eyes flashed with anger. "Daniel is my son, and he has proven himself worthy of this position. Your jealousy and deceit have no place in this company. You're dismissed immediately." Manuel left the mansion, his departure bringing a sense of relief to Daniel. With the obstacle removed, Daniel's focus and performance improved even further. He gained the respect and admiration of his colleagues, and his innovative ideas drove the company to new heights. As the months passed, Daniel grew into his role, his confidence and competence shining through. He and Roberto worked together seamlessly, their bond as father and son strengthening with each success. Gina, too, found immense joy in watching her family thrive, her heart full of pride for both Roberto and Daniel. The challenges they had faced, both personal and professional, had forged a strong and united family. They celebrated their triumphs and supported each other through difficulties, always mindful of the journey that had brought them together. The Gonzalez family, once fractured by loss and uncertainty, now stood as a testament to resilience, love, and the power of truth. Roberto, perceiving the growing tension, called Daniel for a private conversation. "Daniel, I have noticed that Manuel has been trying to interfere with your work. I want you to know that I fully trust you and your abilities. Don't let him discourage you." Daniel thanked him for the support and decided to confront Manuel directly. "Manuel, I know you have tried to sabotage me. I am here to work hard and learn, not to cause problems. I hope we can find a way to work together." Manuel, surprised by Daniel's courage, had no choice but to back down, at least for now. However, his internal anger only increased, and he continued to look for ways to bring Daniel down. Meanwhile, Daniel continued to excel in the company, participating in important meetings, contributing innovative ideas, and earning the trust of his colleagues. Roberto and Gina watched with pride as their son grew, seeing in him a reflection of the qualities they always valued. Months passed, and despite Manuel's attempts, Daniel solidified himself as a capable and respected leader. He learned to navigate corporate challenges and strengthen his position within the company, always counting on the unwavering support of his parents. At the end of each day, Daniel reflected on his journey, knowing there was still much to discover and many challenges to face. But he was ready to face them, confident in his place in the Gonzalez family and his future in the company. Thus, Daniel continued to adjust to his new life, finding strength and purpose in his newly discovered identity, while Roberto and Gina celebrated their son's presence in their lives, assured that the future was bright for everyone. Manuel Lopez, increasingly resentful of Daniel's rise within the Gonzalez family company, began to plot more devious sabotages. Although his main duties were in the mansion, Manuel started using his position and influence to create problems that would indirectly affect Daniel. He started spreading rumors among the mansion employees, hoping the distrust would spread to the company employees as well. Manuel whispered to the housekeeper, "Did you hear about Daniel? Some say he's not as competent as he pretends to be. Imagine the pressure on poor Roberto if he makes a critical mistake." The rumors began to circulate, causing whispers and uneasy glances whenever Daniel was present. Despite the growing tension, Daniel remained focused on his work. He knew that proving himself through hard work and integrity was the only way to dispel the doubts and negativity. One day, while Daniel was working on a critical project, Manuel saw an opportunity to sabotage him further. He tampered with important documents, hoping to cause a significant error that would tarnish Daniel's reputation. However, Daniel's diligence and attention to detail saved him once again. He spotted the inconsistencies and corrected them, preventing any damage to the project. Realizing that subtle sabotage was ineffective, Manuel decided to escalate his efforts. He began forging anonymous letters, accusing Daniel of misconduct and incompetence, and sent them to key figures within the company. The letters caused a stir, and Daniel was called in to address the accusations. Roberto, standing by his son's side, demanded a thorough investigation to clear Daniel's name. The investigation revealed the truth: the letters were false and had been crafted to undermine Daniel. The company's leadership stood by Daniel, reinforcing their trust in his capabilities. Despite Manuel's relentless efforts, Daniel's resilience and integrity shone through. His ability to navigate through adversity and maintain his composure earned him even greater respect within the company. He continued to thrive, leading important projects and contributing to the company's growth. Meanwhile, Roberto and Gina decided it was time to confront Manuel. They called him into the study, their expressions a mix of disappointment and determination. Manuel Roberto began, his voice steady. "We know you've been trying to sabotage Daniel. This behavior is unacceptable, and it ends now." Manuel tried to defend himself, but the evidence was overwhelming. I was just looking out for the company," he stammered. Roberto shook his head. "No, Manuel. Your actions were driven by jealousy and spite. We trusted you, but you've betrayed that trust." Gina added, "We've given you many chances, but this cannot continue. We have no choice but to let you go." With that, Manuel was dismissed from his position. The mansion and the company began to return to a state of harmony. Daniel, now free from Manuel's malicious schemes, continued to grow and excel. His confidence and leadership qualities further solidified. As time passed, Daniel's presence in the Gonzalez family and the company became indispensable. Roberto and Gina watched with pride as their son thrived, knowing they had made the right decision in bringing him into their lives and business. The future was indeed bright for the Gonzalez family, united by love, trust, and the unbreakable bond they had forged through their trials and triumphs. One morning, Manuel called some of the mansion employees for a conversation in the kitchen. "We need to do something about Daniel," said Manuel with a conspiratorial tone. "He doesn't deserve the position he holds. Let's show Mr. Gonzalez that he is not capable." The employees, fearful but influenced by Manuel's authority, agreed to help him. They began creating small problems in the mansion, from intentional maintenance neglect to tampering with Daniel's documents, trying to cause distractions and worries that would affect his performance in the company. Daniel, for his part, adjusted to his new position in the company with determination and effort. He was dedicated to learning as much as possible about the family business, participating in important meetings, and contributing innovative ideas. However, he began to notice that small things were going wrong, both in the mansion and the company. One afternoon, while reviewing an important report, Daniel noticed that some data was incorrect. He knew he had verified them several times. Confused, he decided to investigate further and discovered that the original documents had been altered. This discovery put him on alert. Roberto, always attentive to Daniel's well-being, noticed his son's tension. "Daniel, I have noticed that you are worried. What is going on?" Daniel, after thinking it over, decided to confide in his father. "Dad, I have noticed several problems with the documents and maintenance issues in the mansion. I think someone is trying to sabotage my work." Roberto looked worried but determined. "Let's get to the bottom of this. We will investigate and find out who is behind these attempts to harm you." Together, Roberto and Daniel devised a plan to uncover the saboteurs. They installed discreet surveillance cameras in key areas of the mansion and the company offices. They also decided to monitor communications and document changes more closely. Over the next few weeks, they watched and waited, hoping to catch the culprits in the act. One night, as the mansion was quiet, Daniel and Roberto reviewed the surveillance footage. Their patience paid off when they saw Manuel and a few employees tampering with documents and equipment. The evidence was clear and undeniable. Roberto decided it was time to confront the conspirators. He called a meeting with the implicated employees, including Manuel, in his office. Daniel stood by his side, his presence a testament to their united front. "Manuel, we have evidence of your attempts to sabotage Daniel's work," Roberto said, his voice firm. "You have betrayed our trust and tried to undermine my son." Manuel tried to deny it, but Roberto played the surveillance footage, leaving no room for doubt. The employees involved looked guilty and fearful, realizing the gravity of their actions. Roberto continued, "You have not only jeopardized Daniel's position, but also the integrity of this household and our business. This behavior is intolerable." Manuel, knowing he was cornered, tried to justify his actions. "I was only looking out for the company, Mr. Gonzalez. I didn't think Daniel was capable." Roberto shook his head in disappointment. "Your actions were driven by jealousy and malice, not concern for the company. Your employment here is terminated immediately. As for the rest of you, consider this your first and final warning. Any further misconduct will be met with the same consequence." With Manuel dismissed and the other employees warned, the atmosphere in the mansion and the company began to improve. The small problems and sabotages ceased, allowing Daniel to focus fully on his work. He continued to excel, his innovative ideas contributing significantly to the company's success. Roberto and Gina were proud of how Daniel handled the adversity. His resilience and determination had not only proven his capability, but had also strengthened the trust and bond within their family. Daniel's journey was far from over, but he faced the future with confidence, supported by his parents and colleagues who had come to respect and admire him. As the months went by, the Gonzalez family and their business flourished. Daniel's contributions helped the company grow, and his leadership qualities shone through in every project he undertook. The challenges he faced had only made him stronger, and he embraced his role with a sense of purpose and fulfillment. The mansion, once a place of tension and conflict, now echoed with laughter and harmony. Roberto and Gina found joy in their reunited family, grateful for the strength and unity that had emerged from their trials. Daniel, fully integrated into both the family and the business, looked forward to the future with optimism and determination. And so the Gonzalez family, fortified by their experiences and bound by love, continued to thrive, their story a testament to resilience, trust, and the unbreakable bonds of family. Roberto and Daniel decided to discreetly investigate the source of the problems. They began by reviewing the mansion's maintenance records and speaking with employees. It was not long before they discovered that Manuel Lopez was behind the sabotage. The butler's actions were motivated by his resentment towards Daniel and his desire to regain his power and influence. Roberto was deeply disappointed by Manuel's actions and decided to confront him directly. "Manuel, we know you are behind the problems and sabotage. I am deeply disappointed by your behavior. You are no longer welcome in this house or this company." Manuel, caught and disgraced, tried to justify his actions but could not escape the consequences. Roberto fired him from his position, and he was asked to leave the mansion immediately. His departure marked the end of his negative influence on the Gonzalez family. With Manuel out of the picture, Daniel could focus on his work without distractions. He continued to grow in his role, gaining the respect of his colleagues and contributing significantly to the success of the company. Roberto and Gina supported him every step of the way, and their family bond became even stronger. As time went by, the Gonzalez family overcame the challenges and celebrated their achievements together. Daniel found his place in the family and the company, and Roberto and Gina felt proud of their son. Despite the obstacles they had faced, they learned that unity, trust, and perseverance were the keys to overcoming adversity and building a successful future. Daniel's journey in the company continued to flourish. His innovative ideas and dedication to his work earned him numerous accolades and promotions. He became a key player in the company's strategic planning, often leading important projects that drove significant growth and profitability. One evening, while the family gathered for dinner, Roberto raised his glass in a toast. "To our family and to Daniel, whose hard work and determination have not only brought success to our company, but have also made us stronger as a family." Gina smiled warmly, her eyes shining with pride. We have faced many challenges, but we have come through them together. I am so proud of both of you." Daniel, humbled by their words, felt a deep sense of belonging and fulfillment. "Thank you, Mom and Dad. I couldn't have done it without your support and guidance. This journey has taught me so much about resilience and the importance of family." As they clinked glasses, the room filled with a sense of accomplishment and unity. The Gonzalez family had weathered the storm and emerged stronger than ever. They knew there would be more challenges ahead, but they also knew they could face anything as long as they had each other. With the shadow of Manuel's betrayal behind them, the Gonzalez family looked to the future with hope and optimism. They continued to build on their successes, both in business and in their personal lives, always cherishing the bonds that held them together. Daniel, now a seasoned leader in the company, often reflected on his journey. The trials and tribulations had shaped him into the person he was, instilling in him a deep appreciation for the values of trust, integrity, and perseverance. He was committed to upholding these values in every aspect of his life, ensuring that the legacy of the Gonzalez family would endure for generations to come. And so the Gonzalez family thrived, their story a testament to the power of unity and the enduring strength of love and loyalty. Both through their struggles and triumphs, they had discovered the true meaning of family, and it was this unbreakable bond that would carry them forward, no matter what challenges lay ahead. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the Gonzalez family story. From overcoming sabotage and betrayal to finding unity and success, we've seen how resilience, trust, and perseverance can transform challenges into triumphs. As you reflect on the lessons from Roberto, Daniel, and their experiences, we'd love to hear from you. What is one key takeaway you've gained from this story that you plan to apply in your own life? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave your comments, like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more inspiring content. Your support means the world to us.